As someone who loves no-code, I'm always on the lookout for new apps, new tools, new patterns, new ways of creating different tools and software without writing a piece of code. And thankfully, no-code is evolving day by day, year by year, very, very rapidly. So there are always new tools to check out. And in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 no-code tools that I'm examining right now in order to see if they're going to fit into my workflow and if I will be able to create new apps with them later on. So let's begin. So the first tool I'm looking at is called Builder, and they say this is the future of development is visual. And right away we have kind of a screen, we have a little video, a little embedded video, and they are showing how they are building different things. And immediately I see it kind of like a website builder. But if you scroll down, they tell you that you can do anything, right? Build anything for the web visually, including things like SaaS, internal apps, Chrome extensions. And they even say that the whole studio that you can essentially build apps on is built using the tool itself. And so you can kind of check it out, check out their homepage. But what we're going to do is we're going to log in, we're going to sign up, log in, and take a look at the tool and see how it works. So here I'm logged in. This is kind of the first page that you see when you get in. And what you're looking at is kind of the environment, but it's also a bunch of templates. So we have this kind of data template here. I can kind of drag that here. We have an infinite canvas. We have the grid list elements. We have preview, styles, data, flows, and actions. Now, right here, you can create a new page. You can add new elements. You can add blocks. You have some patterns. But what's interesting about this tool is the data collection. So if you go into the data collection here, we see 2 data collections, and this is similar with tools like Bubble or Adalo that also have collections. They may be known by another name. And so let's say we go into items here and we have 2 records. We can create a new record, we can create a new field, we can edit all that. So it's nice that they have kind of built-in database here. The other thing that caught my attention is we can add an element and we can scroll down and we can immediately display things like data. And this is something that you're always going to be doing. So it's nice that this is built in. So for instance, you can click that, you can place it on here, and you have a property settings that open up, and you can go to this grid list. You have your properties, you have a styling, you have your events, and you also have your data. So if you go into data, you can go into collection list, you can select your items. And the idea is now this grid list is going to display the values, the data from your specific collection. This is very, very similar to Bubble. If you've seen my Bubble videos, very, very similar. Bubble has a repeating group. This has a grid list. Very similar. It's just in a lot of these tools, the way they do it is different. You're going to have the same kind of patterns, the same methodology, but the way everything is implemented is different. And that is why it's very interesting to analyze a lot of these tools, because maybe there's certain aspects of Bubble that you like, but there are certain aspects that you don't like. Well, you can check out a new tool and you can decide, well, maybe they do it this way and this is more preferable for me. So this is a really cool. So you have events. I can do an event, autosave, page load. If somebody scroll to the end, I can create an event. We have various properties. And so the idea is if you have a problem to solve, you will be able to use this tool to build it. The only thing that I noticed while using it is that there's a small delay whenever I try to do something. So let's say I want to add an element and I scroll down to an element and I want to drag it. There's a couple of seconds that I need to wait before the properties panes open up. And I'm using a relatively fast computer. This is a computer I just purchased several months ago, so it's definitely not my computer. So I'm not sure if that is something they're gonna fix in the future. But other than that, this is an interesting tool that I'm gonna continue to play with, continue to understand with, and will definitely update you in the future. The next tool that I want to show you is Backendless. Okay, this is full stack visual app development platform. Okay, this is a complete visual app builder that makes apps intuitive to develop and easy to manage, no code required. So we have user management, real-time database, API services, a UI builder, push notifications, and Backendless Pro. Okay, run Backendless on your own servers with no functional limits. So that's very, very interesting. So we're gonna log in and we're gonna take a look at their environment and see if we can create something. All right, so here I'm logged in into one of the main screens here. And let's try to take this step at a time and take a look at the UI elements that allow us to create apps. So this is the front end tab here. And in the UI builder, we have the user interface, we have the logic here that I'm gonna show you in a second. We have components, we have theme, and we have settings. If we go into the backend tab, we have other settings. So we have app settings, API tracking, we have analytics, log management, billing, stuff like that. And then we can go into users and we can set up user registration, login providers, which is actually pretty cool. We can set up Google as the login provider, which is very common, or Facebook or Twitter. We also have data here, which is very nice. We have app tables, we have schema, permissions, configuration. So data is definitely there, followed by files, messaging, cloud code, marketplace, and code generation. So let's go into the front end and try to create something that resembles an app. So if we go into front end here, we have our main kind of canvas here. And on the right hand side, we have a layout which contains different ways that we can place elements. Then we have the general, we have backendless. And backendless in their term is stuff like data, stuff like that happens that the user does not see typically. In this case, we have data table and chart. We have forms that get input. So for instance, I can, let's say I can put a text box here. This is text, I can label it whatever I want. Or if I want to do an input or something, I can do that as well. So if I go back here, I'm going to go in here. So I'm going to go to an input field. I can just drag it there. Now we have an input here. It has a label. I can change that. And I can go back and I can add a button as well. So if I scroll down, I can drag and drop this button here. Now, the way you do logic here is that once you select the element, you can go to this thing right here that kind of looks like a jigsaw piece. And you can click on it, and now you can create various codes. So in order to do that, we have the button selected. We can do an on-click event. We just click on the plus sign there. And now we are designing code. Now the whole code designer here is very different than things like Bubble or Appgyver or some of the other builders. You have it's kind of like a bunch of jigsaw pieces that you piece together. So for instance, we have an on-click event, and you know, if you want to do something, so let's say you want to scroll down, somebody clicked, and you want to maybe create a loop. You can do a repeat loop. So I take this and I place it. Once I do that, this element is inside. Now this element, each element is configurable. So this is a while loop. I can do an until loop. So the difference between a while and an until is that until is going to execute at least once, while a while may not execute at least once, depending on that initial condition. And inside, I can put a piece of code. So let's say I go into the object. I want to set property of an object to something else. I can just paste that in there and I can do it. And so it's telling me that set property object, input object must be defined. So as you're building it, you're going to specify the object, you're going to specify the property, and you're going to specify a new value. And so this way, if you have a loop, you can maybe set like a number that increments by 1. So like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as properties in an object, or you can do something else. Really depends on what you're trying to do. But the bottom line is that as you're designing here, you just simply go to the right and you can open logic, you can drop default styles, and every element that you see here has its own kind of logic. So in input, I can define logic here, on change event, on focus. So that way, once the element is in focus, I can click on this and do some kind of logic. So this is a very, very interesting tool. It's very similar to a tool called Thunkable that I reviewed in one of the previous videos. So definitely check out that video, because the logic builder is pretty much identical to the way logic is built in that other tool called Thunkable. So check it out. Now the next tool I want to talk about is Izzy. And they promise you that you will be able to make full-fledged native apps. You can design, connect data, and publish your app easily without coding. And you can scroll down, create mobile app in 3 simple steps. You can choose assets, you can create a database, you can publish to the store as well. And what else you can do? You can import from Figma. You have a graphic editor and a bunch of actions that you can do. So it's very similar to tools like Adalo, to tools like Glideapps. And so I'm gonna log in right now and we're gonna try to create a sample app. So here I am logged in into this tool. We don't have any projects right now. We can simply click on new project here. We're just gonna call it app 1. We're gonna hit create and now we have an app. So I can double click on it and I'm gonna be redirected to an editor. Okay, so it's telling me that use this block to control the layers. We have pages, left menu mode, Figma integration, etc., etc. We're just gonna scroll past that, and now we have kind of a designer here, right? We also can pick data here, and we have API stuff here. We have a request. You can do Firebase, you can do default. You have that. Then you go to the editor here. And this is where you can edit the app. So we have different components. Let's say we have a panel. And so let's say you want to include something like a panel header. You can just double click on it. And now you have a panel header. You have the search bar here that you can kind of understand. You have the design. You have the action, interactions, move to the page, open, close. You can add a function. Then we have data, select request. We don't have any data configured, so that's not working right now. Here we have different ways that we're interacting with our design. It's kind of like Photoshop in a way, because this is an arrow, so that way we can kind of drag and drop. But if I pick this, I can have a square here. Or if I pick this is obviously going to be a circle. Here we have a bunch of images. What interests me the most when I'm looking at these apps is how many components do they support and how can I interact with those components. So is it easy for me to, drag and drop, basically double click, get this component here, right? Have it right here, delete this maybe. And is it easy for me to do some kind of requests with it, right? Create an action. So what kind of actions can I do? Can I add a function? What kind of function can I create with it? For example, if I want to create a function that's associated with some element, I can simply go in here. I can click on select element. I can select this element here. I can add a function, and that's going to go ahead and create a function for me. It says here function is created. And then I can configure this function to do various things. I have a bunch of functions. I can delete it. So the idea here is that I will be able to create a mobile app, a native app, submit it to an app store, Google store, and people will be able to use this app just like an app created using code. Because I can also click on code here, and I can take a look at the generated code, how the code is actually generated. So here we have code being generated in React Native here. I can copy it and I can, manipulate it in some way or another. So this is an interesting tool because it's also generating React Native code at the same time as I'm building it. Now, the next tool that I've been checking out is called Voiceflow. And this is a tool where teams create Google Actions. You can create stuff like mobile assistants. You can create chatbots. You can create custom assistants. A lot of very interesting things. And this tool has a very, very cool UI. And so let me log in and let's take a look at how it works. And so here I am logged into my own workspace, which I called Workspace 1. And we can create a new project, and it tells us, okay, what kind of project do you want to create? So we have voice assistant, chat assistant, we have one-click publish, Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, Dialogflow chat, Dialogflow IVR. So depending on what you want, we can create a sample voice assistant. So I already played with it somewhat. I have created like a little voice assistant here. And so here's what my sample voice assistant looks like. This is a start block here. This is where the conversation begins. This is what they say, various commands. And then it asks us, would you like to hear a random fact about Voiceflow? And depending on how we answer yes, it's gonna tell us no, it's gonna exit. And you can kind of drag and drop various components. So we have a speak, an audio, a card, or a stream response. And then we have user input such as choice, capture, prompt, or intent. We also have various flows, home, end session, help user flow. And then we have various logics here: if, set, random flow, exit, integration, API, Google Sheets, custom code, custom action, stuff like that. So why don't we try and see how this voice assistant is working. So we're gonna simply click this play button here. We're gonna do run test, and it's telling us, welcome to Happy Path. Would you like to hear a random fact about Voiceflow? We're gonna say yes. It loads it up, and it's also showing us what exactly it's doing right now. This is kind of a random fact. And then the session basically ends, because that is the last thing here. And now if you run it again, so let's say we run this thing again. Okay, we run the test. So it's telling us the same thing. I say no, and then it goes back here, no problem, goodbye for now. So this is a sample, just to get your juices flowing, project that we created, a simple flow, just to show you the possibilities of what you can do. And this could be as part of your internal team. This could be an assistant on your website, on your SaaS app. The possibilities are essentially endless, and this is becoming very, very popular these days, because you can plug into Google Assistant, you can plug into Amazon Alexa actions. There's lots of things that you can do with, and if there's enough interest, I may be covering tools such as these ones, or maybe this tool specifically, in one of the future videos. If you do want to see this tool covered, or any of the tools covered that we're discussing in this video, make sure you let me know in the comments below, and I will be happy to create a more comprehensive video. Next, we're gonna check out a tool that's very, very different from the other tools that we've looked at so far. And this is called Buildbox, and this allows you to create your own games. Okay, so you can scroll down, you can kind of see they have tutorials, they have a community here, and I already downloaded the app. And so we're gonna run it, and we're gonna play with the studio and see what kind of games we can mess around with or even create. Okay, so the app is loaded. This is what it looks like. We can create a new game. We have a game wizard. We have a 2D game or a 3D game. They also have a ton of tutorials here that you can learn to make just about any kind of game that you may be interested in making. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep it simple. We're gonna go into templates, and we are gonna open one of the templates for a game. So for instance, this game right here, it's called Trap. We're gonna open it up just to see the environment, just to see the settings, because I personally do not have much experience creating games, so for me it's also very, very interesting. And so right now, looking at it, it's very similar to how 3D applications work, how you can create 3D animations, essentially apps that allow you to create 3D animations such as Apple Motion or Adobe After Effects. And this is kind of what we're looking at right now. You can look at 2D space, you can look at 3D space here, you can take a look from this angle here. And on this left-hand panel, we see all the elements. So we have a camera here, and that controls how everything is viewed, from which angle it's viewed, how we're doing animation. We have the light source, and you control the way the light source is, because there's going to be a light source. You see those shadows here, so there's a light source that's shining on top of our setup here. Then we also have the ground, and then you have various elements. We have the level section start, you have start, and you have all of these different components. You can drag and drop different components here, tons of assets. You can even browse and get new assets. But if we play this game, it's gonna compile it for us, and it's gonna load it up here. And this is what the game looks like. It's loaded. We're gonna hit play, and the objective here is to click when the ball is in the middle, because if we do it like this, the ball falls over and breaks into a million pieces, supposedly. But if you do something like this, it starts to bounce back and forth, and we need to find, okay, so that was too late. Let's try it again. Let's play that. Okay, oops. Let's try that again. There we go. Oh, okay, almost got it. So you guys get the idea. This is the kind of game you can create. And so if you are interested in game development, if you are interested in just getting your feet wet and understanding how to build 3D games, this could be an interesting project for you, because they have tons of tutorials. It's fairly self-explanatory. And once you understand how to create games in this studio, in this environment, I promise you, you will be able to go on and create different games in different environments. Because from my knowledge, a lot of these tools are very, very similar. So if you want to create games, or you want to learn how to create 3D stuff, this could be the project for you. The next tool I want to show you is called Microsoft Flow or Microsoft Automate. And this is a very, very powerful tool. You can create automations. In fact, it's so powerful that you feel like you're coding here, except you're not writing a single line of code. And for me, that's the ultimate litmus test of the power of a specific no-code tool. If I'm using a no-code tool and I feel like I'm almost writing code, that's how much control I have in the tool, then this is a good tool. But obviously, you're not going to be writing any code at all here. And the way this tool works is that let me show you one of my own flows here. If we go into this flow, and the flow is essentially an automation, and I want to show you the power of a flow. So I created this flow a year ago. I've been using this tool for a very, very long time. So if you open this flow here and we click on edit, just to show you how everything works and show you the power of this tool, I guarantee you, you're going to be using this tool in no time. And so this is kind of the flow that we have here. And the idea here is that when a new email arrives on an account, on a Gmail account that I have connected to this tool, what we want to do is we want to get records from a separate Google Sheet. And for each record that we find, we want to reply to that original email with a certain email. So if I go in here, and in this specific email, we are sending a free Bitcoin course. And here's the sender's name, here's the title and the content. As you can see, this is actually from the email from this module here. And these two are from this Google Sheet module here. Now, this right here, this applied to each, this is actually a loop. We're looping over a bunch of tips, a bunch of elements, and then we have a certain delay here. We're delaying 1 day. And then once all of this is done, we are sending another email. And the power of this is really limitless because all of these are connections. So if I click on a new step here, I can add an action or a parallel branch. So if I add an action, I can click on that and I can see how many actions there are, right? Look at these built-in actions. We have control, we have a data operation, date and time, HTTP. We can send an HTTP request. I can do an HTTP plus Swagger, HTTP webhook. So a Swagger is essentially a specifications for a REST HTTP API. We can do that. So there's a lot of things that you can do. We have number functions, tons of different things. We have standard, premium, custom collection of functions. So for instance, I am looking at various actions having to do with Google Sheets. We also have triggers, right? Triggers are great because your app needs to run, and it runs either from a trigger or it runs on a set time basis, one or the other. In this case, you can set up a trigger, and that essentially starts your whole flow, your workflow, when something is triggered. And I absolutely love this tool. I've used it in various projects when I didn't want to go out and code something. I can simply create a very cool flow that is triggered from a certain event and does exactly what I wanted to do. So do check out this tool. They have a generous free plan, which is exactly what I'm using here. And then if you want some extra functionality, you may need to pay a little bit more. But I've been using the free plan and I've been very, very happy with it. The next tool I want to show you is a tool that allows you to generate chart images with a simple open API. And this is one of the more simpler tools in our list here, but nevertheless, you know, charts are very useful. And with this tool, you can easily create all kinds of charts. So for instance, if we go in here into a chart gallery, you can see what kind of charts you can create. And what's nice about it is that anytime you need charts, you need to show charts inside your app, you can generate it using this tool and then embed it inside your app. So you can do it using Bubble, you can do it using Appgyver, you can do it using any of the other tools that we talked about in this video or any of the previous videos, because all it does is it generates an image, and an image could be embedded pretty much everywhere. So here we have bar charts, we have line charts, we have area charts, we have other charts. Any kind of chart you might want to create, you're probably going to be covered here. So just to show you how it works, if we go back to our quick chart, to the home page, they give you a sample URL that take this data and creates a chart, right? So if I paste it here, it creates a chart for me. So I can modify this data. So let's say I go into an editor and I paste this sample data. I want to change something. I want to change revenue to profit, and I want to change users to customers. I copy, paste it back as a URL, and this is the result I'm looking at. Instead of users, it's customers. Instead of revenue, it's profit. And this is really nice because the data that you're working with, so if you go back here, this data looks a lot like a JSON object. So remember, guys, what is a JSON object? Here I have a JSON object, and this is kind of what the data looks like. Here, it's very similar to a JSON object. So if you're working with anything even resembling JSON objects, which you definitely should be if you're building any kind of app, you're typically going to be working with JSON objects, then creating data in this format is going to be very, very simple. And that means you'll be able to very, very easily create all kinds of charts and therefore enhance your application, make it more interesting, make it more visually exciting, and add more value to your user. And that about wraps it up. That's all the 7 apps that I wanted to show you guys today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you want me to cover one of these apps or some of these apps and make a more comprehensive video. Let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you enjoy content such as this. If you want me to continue making this content, I would love to hear from you. So definitely leave a comment below. Like this video if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you enjoy no code content. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you real soon.